Welcome to our latest exhibition at Waterford County Museum, Country Houses of County Waterford, History, Architecture and Landscape. One of our first display cases contains children's clothing and illustrated 19th century books. We're going to take a look now at some of the books in the collection. This one I have here is a chapbook, meaning cheap books sold by chapmen who travelled to fairs and markets, and also sold them from door to door. They were printed as small books with crude woodcuts, sometimes hand-coloured. This one is called The House That Jack Built, and if we have a look inside, we'll see some of the hand-coloured wood engravings. These would have been slightly more expensive than the uncoloured books. There was a printer in Waterford named Walter Kelly who produced these books from about 1816 to 1830. And we have more examples here of hand-coloured books. This one is called How to Be a Rifleman. And you see the cover here, and it dates from 1860. These were more elaborate books because they had moving parts. The earliest moving book actually dates from the 13th century. These books were usually medical, architectural or landscape gardening books. And it wasn't until the late 18th century that you had children's books that were being produced as entertainment. Mostly they had a moral lesson in the text. The first of the children's books that were used for entertainment purposes were produced in the 1770s, and they were called harlequinades. And really it was a sheet of paper folded up and cut, revealing different images. This book here, as you can see, you have a tab here at the bottom, and when you pull that tab, you can see the rifleman's arm moves, and the gun will move. And these were more and more elaborate as the 19th century progressed. And we have another example here in the exhibition, which is called Little Folks Living Nursery Rhymes. And in this case, again, you have very elaborate movement here. When you pull the tab, and you can see the horse's feet are moving and the witch on the horse. So these could be quite elaborate, all sorts of moving parts. Again, these were produced by companies such as Dean and Sons, who produced this particular book, which is called Shadows, and it's called the Indestructible Children's Book. And the lithographs are pasted onto canvas, which made them very tough. And each picture has a child doing something mischievous, so the whole book has a sort of moral tone to it. As we progress on through the 19th century, you had illustrators such as Kate Greenaway, and her books became so well known that people started to design a range of children's clothes around the illustrations. This one is called Marigold Garden, and just to give you an example of the plates inside, these were printed by Edmund Evans, whose mission was to print books that were available to the public at a very cheap price. But these were very well produced, separate blocks to produce the colouring. Another famous book illustrator was Walter Crane, and this is an example called The Baby's Bouquet, and it has music as well as the full colour plates. Walter Crane was part of the arts and crafts movement and designed tiles and other items besides books. And another noted illustrator of the time was Randolph Caldecott. His series of nursery rhymes, by 1884 he had sold over 800,000 copies. And again, showing examples of the colour printing. Very subtle colouring. And again, he was another noted illustrator. And so we have a sample of books by all of the major illustrators and publishers in the 19th century. And This book production continued into the 20th century, and of course we have Beatrix Potter, one of the most famous writers and illustrators. This is an example of one of her books, The Tale of Johnny Townmouse, and it dates from 1818. And again, you have her own illustrations. Very simply done, but they were very popular and they're still in print to this day. And coming up to the 1940s, here we have an example called Crazy People, published in 1945. It's by an artist called Walter Trier. And this is a style of book that was being produced much earlier in the 19th century, where you have images on different flaps and you can move them around and create funny images throughout. And books became more elaborate, and you had 3D books right up into the 50s and 60s and 70s. And these types of books with elaborate moving parts are still being produced today. So that's just a brief look at some of the collection and what you can see in the exhibition.